Thanks, Derek. Welcome, everybody. I'm Zoë Ryan. I'm the Daniel W. Dietrich II Director here at the ICA, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all here for a celebratory opening of Sissel Tolaas Re. Many people have helped support this exhibition, which I'm very excited for you to see after this brief conversation, and I'd just like to take a minute to acknowledge a few supporters. The Inchworm Fund, the Office for Contemporary Art Norway, the Royal Norwegian Consulate General in New York, International Flavors and Fragrances Inc., and Kvadrat. Thank you very much. A team from across 4 countries at least has put this project together. I'd first like to thank Joost Groten Studio in Amsterdam and Other Means in New York for the brilliant graphic design for the show and our fall campaign, which you can see on our windows. And for those standing at the back, there are 3 seats at least at the front if you'd like to move on down. Don't be shy. This exhibition was originally shown and curated by the Astrup Fearnley Museet in Oslo, and their team have been absolutely brilliant to work with. As you know, it takes a village or many villages to put together a project like this, and the exhibition was specially configured for ICA with many special new commissions, which you're going to see this evening. ICA is extremely fortunate to have an absolutely stellar and really talented team of craftspeople and crew and installation team, and of course all the staff at ICA, and I can't thank them enough for their brilliant work on this exhibition. I'd especially like to thank Kate Abercrombie, Emily Elliott, Richard Harrod, Robert Cheney, Christina Centauri and Lauren Downing for all the work they've done on the installation, and the entire ICA art handling team. Last, but definitely not least, I would like to give my sincere thanks to the 2 women sitting next to me today. Solveig Øvstebø is the Director and Chief Curator at the Astrup Fearnley Museet in Oslo, and she is the originating curator of this exhibition. I had the privilege to get to know Solveig when we were both in Chicago, and she was the director of the Renaissance Society then, another institution that she led with aplomb. And Solveig, it was just so much fun to work with this project on you. Thank you for your commitment, your friendship, and for being such a brilliant collaborator. And of course, Sissel. We first met each other, we think, in 2013. We think that was the first time. I have been a huge fan of her work since then. I commissioned her to do a project for the Istanbul Design Biennial. That was definitely an adventure, and this has been a new adventure. Sissel, you know, I think you are fearless. I admire you for that. I can't thank you enough for entrusting your work to us. This project was developed, of course, during COVID, but Sissel persevered with Solveig and myself. Really undertaking a lot of the work from afar. We could not get into Oslo, and at some points Sissel was unable to come into the States, but still we were absolutely committed, and I think the results stand for themselves in the exhibition. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much, Sissel. So a brief introduction to the exhibition that you're going to see tonight and our conversation. Sissel, as you know, is an artist and a smell researcher. Smell, she believes, is an essential form or much overlooked form of communication. She believes that it's a tool that connects people and animals and plants, and a mode of communication that allows us to speak not only with words, but with emotions. And as you know, smell, you smell before you see, and smell hits the emotional part of our brain, and Sissel is going to do a much better job of explaining this than I ever will. But I was absolutely sold when I first started learning about her work and really understand why it's so important. This exhibition is the biggest project of her work to date. It covers 25 or more years of practice. And the title of the exhibition, Re, R-E, could stand for real, reveal, reawaken, rehumanize, revive, but really illuminates her research-based practice and her very generous approach to the world. There are 20 projects on view, or as Sissel likes to call them, situations, which you will see across the entire ICA building. I would even pop into the restroom, because there is probably her most intimate project in that space, a self-portrait. But in a time of immense challenge and change, Sissel invites us to trust ourselves and to trust our bodies, to explore the show on your own terms and really interpret it organically and through the senses. The exhibition for me speaks directly to ICA's mission as a lab of experimentation and builds on now almost 60 years of doing really groundbreaking exhibitions and projects that look at artists and ideas and narratives that are very overlooked or under-recognized. And I think this project is exceptional in that regard. Sissel invites, as I said, to trust our most sophisticated software, our senses, questioning what we see and, of course, smell, while forgoing binaries such as good and bad for more nuanced, more open interpretations of the world. And she really thinks of this exhibition as a way to shift perspectives, open up more inclusive, more responsive readings of our time and our place. So our short conversation this evening is meant to be only a taster, just to give you some brief background to Sissel and the show and some comments from Solveig about preparing the exhibition in Oslo. We will open the floor to just a couple of questions. We would like to prioritize if anyone is on Zoom that has a question, because of course they won't get to have the experience of the show this evening, and then maybe we'll take one or two questions from the floor. But of course then Sissel and Solveig will be in the galleries, and of course I will too. So if you have any burning questions, well, you know where to find us. So I recently read somewhere that smell was until recently the Cinderella of the senses, something overlooked and dismissed. The philosopher Immanuel Kant even called smell one of the most ungrateful and dispensable of senses. And Charles Darwin deemed smell of extremely slight service to humans. However, more recently, smell has been recognized as one of our major senses, connected to everything from how we navigate and experience the world to how we interact and understand each other. So given all of our experiences over the last couple of years, some of us have become even more aware of smell or the lack thereof. And I know several people in this audience who are expecting to use this exhibition for their smell training, which we are up for. But it's become, I guess, something which has prompted us to rethink kind of the power of smell and what that means. So Sissel, you have been working with smell for, almost 3 decades. You definitely don't think it's the Cinderella of the senses. And as someone that trained in organic chemistry and linguistics, I thought maybe we could just start with a simple one. What first attracted you to smell as both sort of the subject, but also the material of your work?
I got very early aware of the information in the air that I was breathing, and it did something to me that I didn't control. That made me very curious, beyond what I suspected, to understand. I was then that very much. Opala, that's me. So yes, breathing, the air we breathe is a shared endeavor. And I was very curious about why this air is so important. What does it contain? How do I understand it in a different way than was the case? Is that me or you? Huh? So fascinating about this substance that surrounds us full time, all the time. I started to explore it more sophisticatedly and deeper over the years, and decided to dedicate 7 years of my life to understand the world from a different perspective, using my nose first and exploring the world in a completely different way. Getting the whole picture, including the nose, was essential to what I do today.
Could you tell us a little bit about how you work with smell?
Yes, first I show up as half my job, identifying a situation, a person, a city, a country, a planet, with my whole body, and relying on the incredible information provided through and with the senses. It takes me on a journey that I don't control, But having developed multiple methodologies and ways of focusing specifically on the sense of smell, I'm able to catch that very moment very quick and decide on the spot if I do the recordings with my own nose, relying on the fact or the molecules I'm able to track, or if I go in with advanced technology, then enable me to do more specific research. So I will use a device that literally break up a smell and turn it into individual molecules. And with that data, I'm able to, in my lab, reproduce and replicate very many smells in this world. And I've done this now for 25 years, so I have a massive database. And yes, I'm supported by various knowledges that accomplish me to do this very sophisticated. I'm very exhausted and tired. Be patient, and
you're doing brilliantly.
Anyway, we've been working day and night.
Why do you think smell has been so overlooked?
That's a massive question. First of all, smell is very private. Smell is very connected to emotion. We smell, we immediately bypass rationality in the brain. We activate amygdala, hippocampus, the most sensitive part of the brain, the oldest part of the brain, essential to being. So what smell does, it's so genius. It really puts emotion into action, which is essential to action. Reaction, emotional reaction is essential to action, any kind of action in this world. So smell is so fantastic. And it is really, I'm losing track. What did you ask me about?
Talk to us a little bit about what you've seen during the COVID-19 pandemic and how you think that has impacted how we think about smell, or how you've thought about smell, because we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah, but the sense of smell has been suppressed over generations because of intrinsic and private emotional qualities. You know, intellectual discourse, smell has never really been taken serious until recently. Also understanding how the brain and the body work more properly. We understand also how smell function. And the knowledge of smell have been made much more accessible to the world. Also very much thanks to having me around for 25 years. So I think it's a lot of things that come together that make smell get the moment it has so long deserved. And I think this notion of privacy and intimacy is essential here, you know? And I think it's so much overlooked. We are speaking about intelligence. So there is something called emotional intelligence. And we're feeding into emotional intelligence by smelling. So how do we communicate that part of intelligence, a part of our brain, is a little bit of what I try to accomplish through my work. And smell is amazing. Every breath we do, we inhale smell molecules, information, purpose, communication. Animals do it without looking at things, and eyes confirm what the nose find out. We look, and then maybe we know, but the nose have done the job long before you see what you have been, where you are, and who we are with, etc. So all these are facts and knowledge around smell that has been hidden, and marketing took over where science left once upon a time. I think now science is back. We all understand the importance of science, especially because of COVID also. And relying that, science can bring us some facts that are necessary that we need to apply to whatever we do in this world. Otherwise, where are we heading and what are we doing? So with COVID, suddenly the whole world got closed down, because of invisible particles. Ooh, that's what I'm working on. That's my topic. So never before I've had so much attention. Finally, after 25 years, the world understands what I'm doing. And I think also this whole notion of deprivation. You don't know what you have before you don't have it anymore. Losing the sense of smell. We see, something is wrong. Yeah? Scaling down so we can scale up again. Be without so that we can be within again. I think all these are qualities that not necessarily cost money. If we can bring back a little bit of confidence to everyone, because we all somehow have experienced the same thing, use that type of rhetoric to move on, I think there is hope in this world. Starting with what we have for free, which is the body and the senses, amazing hardware and software, including all the animals and all the living things on this planet and beyond. that's so much more fun to be alive, you know? And all this, what we have for free, called the body and the senses, doesn't cost much money. We just need to challenge it. It's like with your muscle. If you don't train your muscles, you start to lose them. It's the same as with the senses. So having institutions that dare to take on this kind of issues is massive, and that is change. You know, and I see this in Astrup Fearnley and in ICA, and we contribute to change on the spot. People never forget their experience, you know. And I think also here, what I also really insisted on was scaling down language, some semantic, semiotic. Nothing is explained properly, you know, in wall text and explanation. You're walking around looking at paper, distracted by finding out what does she mean, what does he mean, what do I mean. Forget it. Use your body to find out, yeah? Explore what is in the air. I'm hacking the air condition of a conditioned air. The air we all breathe, we all share, the only thing free on this planet. Let's take it serious. Let's forget the air condition, you know, and start to look into the condition of the air. And what this exhibition is about, laying out the building, understanding how biology can also be in a building. How does this building breathe? What does the scar of the building tell me? What is the flaw? How can flaw be beauty? How can imperfection be beautiful? You see, this exhibition is beautiful. My message is in the smell. The smells are disturbing sometimes. But that contrast, make it accessible. Decontextualization of hardcore reality placed in beautiful setting can do the talking, you know? And this is very much what everybody in both teams have understood. And I think the joy and pleasure of working together on this has been tremendous. So everybody somehow have learned to operate and think differently and experience each other differently, I think, after this, you know? And I think that is part of it. It's not about my exhibition or not. It's just the process is the product. So everything in here continue, because my work is about real reality, life. Where there's life, there's smell, there's air, there's ocean. End of the story. And air is everywhere. Are breathing the air that the first bacteria placed on this planet, we are still breathing. Is that my breathing? Is talking. I'm talking too much.
Well, I'm gonna come to that. I wanted to pick up a point. So there are no wall labels in the show, but that doesn't mean that there's no interpretation. And there is two ways to choose your adventure. I think for Sissel, she'd like you all to start on the ground floor and experience the show and make your way up. For those of you who are feeling less confident about your own, I guess, senses, and you can start at the top of the show, where all is kind of revealed in Sissel's words, where she does give you labels for each project, telling you obviously what she's been working on and the main themes in the show. So I'm going to be very keen to see who starts at the top and who starts at the bottom of the show. I was thinking while you were talking, because I don't think I've ever been more aware of smells as working on this exhibition. And Solveig, the show originated at the Astrup Fearnley Museet in Oslo, which is Sissel's homeland, even though she's lived in Berlin for so long now. And I wondered what drew you to her work and developing this quite comprehensive survey show.
So first, let me just thank you, Zoe. And I want to thank the whole team of the ICA. Brilliant work. And thank you too, which we will come back to. When it comes to Sissel's work, I've been following Sissel's work since the 90s, when Sissel still was living in Norway, and made these extraordinary, unique installations that I still would say that they were situations that sort of pushed boundaries, that there was something that we hadn't seen. She made us think, she opened doors, and I kept this work with me. And when I came back to Norway and I was going to make a show, and I came back and the museum was closed because of the pandemic, and I thought, where are we going to go now? What kind of show feel relevant? What do I want to discuss at this moment? And so I called Sissel. And that's sort of where this sort of very particular way of both being generous and inclusive, but at the same time discussing really deep questions in our time is quite unique for an artist to manage that full breadth. And that was really incredibly rewarding. So we pushed through. Sissel took the challenge. Even though we both knew the museum was closed when we started planning the exhibition, we were just like, it's going to open. It will open. And it did. It actually opened 2 weeks. We were allowed to open the museum again after a year in closed museum. We opened it 2 weeks before we actually had the opening of the show. So then it was allowed, because we could have risked something else. But really that was an amazing time to work with this particular exhibition and to really address these questions of how to come together and how to think the question of simple questions of what is it to be a human, but still so complex.
Absolutely. I mean, jumping off of that, I think that people will have different responses. Because it's not just a show about smell. I mean, it really will engage all of your senses. But the issues embedded in every single project are manifold and multi-layered. They range from consumerism to climate change to questions of identity, pollution, oh goodness, our health, yes, how we relate to one another. And we really, I think for Sissel's work, what stood out for me was it was also a way for us to connect to research. And of course, we're at Penn, one of the world's great research institutions. We have an olfactory lab at Penn. I mean, we started to really look at who was working here. Sissel and I did numerous tours and met with people. Monell, the Chemical Senses Center, is just around the corner from ICA. It seemed like a very fitting place to do a show like this, which would really get people engaged on multiple levels. And I'm curious, in Oslo at that moment, maybe both of you can talk to what was the response to the show like, and did anything surprise you?
Do you want me to start? Well, so
You start.
I just also, this thing about the institutional sort of challenge that shows like these can be and should be, is also one of the reasons why they're important to do them. Because they really ask, what can institutions today do? What can they be? How can we work with them? And how can we deal with art in different ways and new ways? And this thing about not having, you know, your regular text as you enter the show, the regular mediation around surrounding, the contextualization around an exhibition. That's something new, and I was excited to see how our audiences would react to that. They would be searching for, you know, texts and guidance. But the fact was actually that they just really did what Sissel wanted them to do. And this was a big survey. This was sort of, you know, it was important for us to collect many different works from Sissel's practice over many years, because usually it's been more sort of like in situations, but here we combine this long breadth of the practice. So they really, you sort of took them through this sort of story or your world, basically, and they entered it in such a beautiful way, and they really engaged with it. So you would see people lying on the floor, sniffing, you know, going back and forth, touching the wall on the outside with the scared men. You will see them later, or you won't see them, you'll smell them later, sorry. And so all these sort of ways that they really, really engaged, and in the end, it wasn't sort of, who cared if it was art or not? It wasn't sort of, that wasn't the question. It wasn't about, in the end, it was about life. And that I thought was really amazing. And they really connected together. People would start talking to each other who didn't necessarily know each other. It was really great. And you can look forward to that.
No, and we did a couple of, you know, I use normally, my way of working is I perform research. I use the creative platform to perform research. So there is never really, I ask questions, I place them in the context of art. I have the freedom to be Sissel Tolaas. I don't have to operate, we think this is the question, we think this is the answer. Produce a paper and maybe move into the next stage of the research. So letting this serious question be exposed in a beautiful setting, or like a museum or institute like this, is essential to moving on with my work. So every situation you see is a research project. It's connected to multiple institutions in the world, university, freestanding scientific kind of research centers like Max Planck Institute, Fraunhofer Institute, Harvard University, MIT, etc. I've done work all over the world and continuous collaboration on the various topics of concern in all the world. Call it climate, you're working on UNESCO. I'm doing a heritage, smell heritage for Pompeii ruins. And working on, all these projects and connecting them and bringing them to a broader audience using the creative world to do so. It's been amazing. And opening up the whole notion of not necessarily commodity fine art, but fine air, in my case, as a kind of work in process that change over the time, that's on display, that maybe what you explore one day is different tomorrow. Like inviting people to think about what means continuation, not just next one, next one, next one, next one, consumption, let's move on. But really, that's also the conversation we had from the beginning. How do we continue this? So ICA is a continuation of Oslo, not a repetition of. Site-specific, as it can be, adapting the issues in the world to the situation here is essential to what you will experience. So the molecules in the air influence the molecules that I put there, and the purpose is to react and act with each other. All of those invisible particles, they are talking nonstop. And they're commenting, and they are using technology to do so. Call it data from the North Sea ocean about pollution, call it anxiousness, call it consumption. So all these are kind of topics that can be applied to anywhere, So in macro world, suddenly the global become the local, and living all over the world, that suddenly I have to go back to Norway with all that experience, and it didn't matter, The richness of Norway was the richness in America. So money is the topic here, and money is the topic there. So it's value, seen in a different way. What is money, for example, one of the projects, what is money? Who knows what is money anymore? It's been a Bitcoin or gold or pearls or, reflecting on these kind of things. What's consumption? What are we putting in our stomach? Like the one piece dealing with the topic of vanilla, There's a micro level of what we all are surrounding with, and and having people to literally get access to this in a different way, make people comfortable, and they are really exploring and playfully confronting serious issues, and I think it's essential to moving on. We are tired of dystopian rhetoric. How can we change that? By adding different type of communication system to the issues of concern. Mimicking on gesticulation, paralinguistic sounds. Maybe that's a way to tell the story. Who write your history books? Who write minds? So it's about storytelling, letting everybody tell their story, use smell as a trigger of memory and emotion, and opening up a conversation about all these issues we're all so concerned about. So it's not more complicated than that, and it's not more difficult than that, and life is complicated and difficult and beautiful. So I think it's, very much the experience I had from Oslo. People are really touched by this, People are engaged, and nobody asks for any text. They just, wow, this is how I understood it, and this is how I understood it, and this is how you understood it. Let's talk about that, And that conversation does not stop outside the museum. It continues continuously, And I think this is small intervention in the life we all share that's so essential to the next step in any way.
It is a challenge.
My passion and commitment is contagious. Be careful.
It is a challenge as a curator to think about curating with the invisible and how we make the invisible visible, which I think you've done really in a special way. I mean, each project is very different, or situation as you move through the installation. You touched on the project about money, and I thought maybe to end we can, because it is a project. At the very beginning of the show, you will see vials of liquid money, and if you come back to the exhibition after the opening, you will be able to get your own vial of liquid money, because it will be our gift to you as you leave the show. It was this project, I think, why I mention it is because it is a project three of us grappled with a lot because of the different contexts. Of course, it meant something very different in Oslo when you showed this piece, and obviously at your museum. It means something, I think, quite differently how we're using it here at ICA, but at the heart is really about what and how we value something. And I wondered if maybe we can finish with you both talking, maybe Sissel, you can explain this project and kind of some of the genesis of it, so people get a sense. Also, your projects take a long time often to make, and you're continually working on them even now.
So 2004, I did massive research, literally commissioned by a Swiss bank, to look into the smell of money. So I developed a device that literally enabled me to collect the volatile emitting from coins and paper money. And it was incredibly fascinating, and the bankers went crazy. So I thought, oh, that's good. Maybe that's all we need. The smell of money, we don't need anything else. You know, like, again, what is value? What is exchange? What is money? You know, starting from pearl diving, oil, gold, Bitcoin, etc. So starting to think about, exchange and value systems was the beginning of this. And then the database grew, and it became euro, became Deutsche Mark, became franc, became Norwegian krona, etc. So there's a massive database of recordings, molecules emitting from coins and paper money. And for various purposes, I've then used this database. Like, that's how I work. My archives are continuous research for nearly 30 years. So taking a topic out to the lab, and then modifying it for the context of concern is how I work. So for Oslo, one of the richest countries in the world, where shiny means wealth, and all the flows are completely ignored, and money is growing on trees. I asked Astrup Fearnley, can we make free entrance for everyone in this museum? The answer was no, yes, yeah? Which I learned from this amazing kind of body language in some part of the world, which I love, one of my favorite movements. And I said, yes, so can my ticket be liquid money? People buy one ticket, and as long as they smell for money, they can come back endlessly, as many times as they want, and they can share it with the whole family, the whole village, the whole country if they want. So the tickets became the smell of money. You come and you have whoever was welcoming you, smell your armpit, and you smell like money. You enter the museum. The complex version of this was an offshore sauna outside of the museum. Astrup Fearnley is on the coast in Oslo, on the harbor. A sauna where the money was of course, what's called that?
It was damping the...
Yeah, so the money was the oil you put on the sauna. So you were sweating money, your money laundered in the ocean, and you were offshore. So the money you put on your skin, you need to clean it in the ocean. So this kind of serious issues, in a joyful, playful way, became a massive success. So here, it's free. Money is a symbol. But still, what's value? What are we getting from visiting here? Yeah? This is a little bit the situation. So here, the liquid money is a wall, shiny wall, with jars communicating commodity. And then the smell of money is connecting the entire exhibition through piping. Pneumatic pipes are connecting the entire exhibition, breathing air into this exhibition, connecting various situations. And then on the top floor, you will smell that smell. And?
I just want to sort of add, there's nothing more to add about the work that was very well explained. This is exactly how it went. They would actually go to the museum with a bathing suit in their bag, first see the work, and then go to the sauna and then have a swim. It really happened.
So
a lot. And they really miss, there's a lot of people who think still that we run a museum with a sauna now. So they actually they're asking us, where's the sauna? And we're like, that was art. So that was another art project. But I just want to say that this particular piece, it actually really shows, Sissel, how you are really working so solid with your work as a process. Because you say it, but it's really showing also. This is the way we started in Oslo. We started thinking about this show. It was connected to the space there and, you know, the title, everything. But then, together with Zoë, together with the team here, you reconfigure it here. And it is the topics are sort of, they follow you, but you twist and tweak them so they also mean and say something new and different. And I think that's a really particular way of working. And I think it's really rare to be able to do that with such complex work and to sort of reenact them in that way, differently.
Time to smell.
I think that's a perfect place to stop. And I'm going to ask Derek if there are any burning questions on the Zoom, or if there are any burning questions in the room before we move in and follow our noses. Does anyone have a question for Sissel or Solveig? Do you want to just go into the galleries?
Just move on because everyone's late.
Let's go. Let's follow Sissel's nose, and she can answer questions there. Thank you both very much.